Well, welcome everyone to the ATX DAO Podcast. This is our take 2 of our interview with Michael, aka the Bitstorian. Michael, really glad to have you on the show, man. Welcome.
Yeah, super excited to talk about everything we're doing in Bitcoin education, Bitcoin on campus, Bitcoin and theology and God, and Bitcoin mining and how it fulfills the New Testament and all these fun things.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So with that, so would love to just kind of share with the audience a little about you, like some of the stuff that you work on. Obviously, you just were mentioning earlier, you just came out of a lecture. So would love to hear just your background, kind of where you started and kind of what you're working on nowadays.
Yeah, sure. I'm a professor of religious studies. My training is as a historian. So yeah, I just came out of these lectures, 4 hours of lecturing about the history of Judaism and then theologically about Christianity, Islam, and Judaism in a class comparing the three of them. Bitcoin should really be in there because I think it's a fulfillment. I think it's the fourth of the three. So things come in for right the four horsemen and all of these things, a sign of the end of times. Maybe Bitcoin is a sign of the end of times. Certainly the end of fiat times. As I mentioned, Jesus talked about Bitcoin, of course. Render unto Caesar is give up all your fiat because it's stupid. And why you needed a divine figure to even manifest as physical. It's the same reason we need miners for Bitcoin or for Doge. And we're using the physical to connect to the divine. The same thing in Judaism with praying. And I mean, the Bible is just software. I mean, the Bible is software and prayers are the operating system. And they're just doing the same thing that machine code does in an operating system on top of it. You're connecting the abstract to the real and assigning meaning and value to that process and its product. So that's what I do. I talk about stuff like that with Bitcoin. And my background, again, is my PhD's in history, studying late antiquity, fall of the Roman Empire, early Middle Ages, particularly early Christianity and Judaism are my expertise. And I already mentioned some of the ways that they connect to Bitcoin. Bitcoin really being a fulfillment of many different ideas in Judaism and particularly Catholicism. But I came to Bitcoin as a very, very banal reason. I wanted to pay off my student loans. That's really my origin story. Like I figured that, as a humanities professor, I would never pay off my student loans. Like it's a terrible investment. You should go to college if you're going to be a historian. So yeah, and then that got me in it, and I started to figure out, what is this and yada yada, like we all do in Bitcoin or in Doge or in other proof of work systems. Then you start to understand the engineering and all of that. And now I created this Bitcoin lab, the first ever Bitcoin research lab on campus in the US, dedicated research lab, producing a lot of research and a lot of students. We had a lot of students this summer inside of the Bitcoin and broader blockchain industry, including there at the DAO, but also at Bitcoin Policy Institute and some of the big Bitcoin mining firms. And we operate across campus. We have Bitcoin studies in the humanities, in engineering, and finance. And we have about 100 students and now about 115, I think, for the new students. And yeah, we have this amazing engineering lab where we're doing really cool stuff to teach them everything from coding, basic coding, to connecting with the network, to designing new miners. And we have a student that's won a hackathon this summer. We're building a new miner. We built a student who built a mining pool and yada yada. I feel like a proud parent of all of the students, what they're designing, but
That's really cool, the stuff that y'all are doing in terms of like helping the students with like really developing cool things like that. So kind of how did that come about? Like how did you guys decide to start that process? I know like because one of the things that's really interesting to me is like how different schools, address crypto, Bitcoin, that kind of thing. Some it's totally left upon the students to do it. I actually went to a school that had an actual digital currency and uh, program. And so got to have like a whole degree that has it in there, but really interested in kind of the start and kind of the inspiration behind it and that.
yeah, I don't know about inspiration because I don't know of any other Bitcoin research labs. I don't think there are any. There's a school in Texas, a technical school that has a certificate in Bitcoin mining, and of course, Wyoming has a certificate in Bitcoin mining or some technical training in Bitcoin mining. They do great stuff. This guy Matt Skurlock, and so really, it's orange pilling desire, is wanting to educate students in this. And a lot of times I would tell students, I mean, the first class I taught on this is Bitcoin and Jewish history, which you're using ordinals to write history on Bitcoin. And I still teach that class, and we'll be teaching a mini version of it this semester. So, and really thinking of what Bitcoin can do for Jewish history. And that was in terms of the teaching side, that was really paramount for me, because of all the reasons we know why we use Bitcoin, that Jewish history seemed like, I mean, a perfect place to start in the humanities, having sensor resistant and immutability, permanence, and all of that on Bitcoin. So, but within that came, of course, educating them on what is money and economy. And they never learn this stuff. And over the summer, I gave a talk at West Virginia University in their finance school about Bitcoin and finance and Bitcoin and DeFi broadly and what it means. And there was a lot of high school teachers there, and they were saying how they don't educate, but they want to learn more. And I learned there's something important. So in 2000, well, I won't say it, but a long time ago, I was a grad student in Madison at University of Wisconsin, and I decided to run, not knowing anything about Madison, the town, run for office for school board. And my primary platform, it was before Bitcoin, right before it, was financial literacy for the students. I said that every student should have a Wall Street Journal, every student should have Financial Times, and should be learning what money is from young age. And everyone thought I was crazy. And of course, I came in third place in a local school board election. Whatever, I got 1,000 votes out of 6,000. But then I learned this summer, when I told the chair of the department there this story, that actually Wisconsin now has a law that it's mandatory that schools teach financial literacy. And I'd like to think that I had some influence in that. And that's also part of that. And last semester we had Joseph Tatek here visiting the students, speaking to the students about his book, Separation of Money and State. And that's I think a primary mission for this century. I agree with him. And then I just started to do it. I mean, you couldn't even run a node on campus legally when I started doing it, let alone mine. So it's a lot of work and a lot of FUD, and I still get a lot of FUD from people and mean emails from grad students saying, why am I destroying the earth? And just wait till I invite Elise Stefanik to campus to talk about Bitcoin. This place is going to explode. So no, yeah, that was sort of the initial intention was again, Jewish history and Bitcoin, and then the financial literacy. And then came the engineering, and what we focus on very heavily in the Bitcoin lab now is heat recycling, hash rate heating, because for Bitcoin to survive, two things need to happen. The younger generation needs to care about it, and that care only comes through knowledge. And we need to decentralize mining. Mining is not decentralized. Bitcoin is not decentralized. I mean, it's a vision for what we want from Bitcoin, but it's not something that exists in the moment. It's like democracy in America. It's something we always dream of building. And we get a little better, maybe sometimes we get worse than other times. So to decentralize mining, I think hash rate heating is the key. Heating your house, heating your small businesses, heating your farms, heating your greenhouses, and heating Congress, heating federal buildings. I've been putting together this legislation for Wyoming. Not that they know about it, but I'm hoping they'll pick it up, which is to, as a cost-cutting measure and a way for the government to raise Bitcoin without using taxpayer money, as such, is to install Bitcoin miners in the Congress of Wyoming. I'd do it in New York, but it's never going to happen in New York. So we can barely even mine here. Yeah, anyways. So that's kind of the beginning and where it went. Yeah.
I have a quick question about the decentralized mining aspect of it, right? Like, how much is decentralized mining for Bitcoin in relation directly correlated with decentralized power distribution and generation?
Yeah, good question. All right. I mean, so I'm still in my lecture mode with the
Yeah.
students.
No, no, that's great. I want to know. I want to know.
Yeah, it's a problem, right? I mean, if everything needs to be decentralized for it to be fully decentralized, you're right. And we need to be able, in some places like New York and other places, you're not allowed to create your own energy. I mean, we could easily on campus here, we're on the two major rivers meet here at our campus, but by the rules of this state, you're not allowed to use that hydropower for Bitcoin mining. So we could do a lot of things, and we could generate our own decentralized electricity in localized grids. And I think that most people, at least in America, never really think about, don't really care. I mean, they've got electricity, everything is running, so what do they care? And I don't know, maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. It's up to them. But if they're all hash rate heating and they're all running ASICs, it makes you start to think about electricity and where it comes from and how it's operating and what is the price of it, and maybe I can get it cheaper and maybe I can get it greener. And so the more people we have mining, the more people that will start to think about those issues, and the closer we could get to a decentralized grid constellation system. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, that is another choke point. There's so many choke points, let alone most of the miners being made by one company and miners mostly being made, ASICs mostly being made in China, though we have some now maybe being made in America with Proto and some others. So yeah, there's a lot of, it's like, again, I really think it's like America and the commitment to democracy. It's a long-term commitment, but to remain committed to decentralization isn't inherent. Bitcoin is not inherently or necessarily going to be decentralized. It may end up as a very centralized system, but that's for us to decide. We need to work very hard to make it decentralized. We need to remain committed. It may be that the government controls a lot of Bitcoin, and then all the banks have your Bitcoin, and then we just start using Bitcoin and no one really cares anymore. And then that's it. The project failed. But yeah, let's hope not.
Well, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, I have this thing that like if you really want distribution, you need to think about microgrids, right? Like microgrids effectively would scale down, but also increase the velocity of like this decentralized approach towards mining hash power rates and like hash rate mining, as you were saying, and
Mm.
localized clusters of, you know, ASICs running that are there.
Mm.
And I appreciate you sharing the thoughts because it's also good to see that like, you know, like it all comes from like knowledge transfer. If there's no one who's actually preaching the knowledge, then that testament or that knowledge is not going to get transferred to the next level of youth that comes in, right? The next generation that comes in. So that makes it makes a lot of sense.
So two of my students, or two of the students in our Bitcoin studies program this summer, were undergraduate research fellows at the Bitcoin Policy Institute, where I'm also a senior fellow, although I did not choose them. It was a peer review process that I was not part of choosing them. So they independently made it by their own skills. And one of the students, Ava Nunez, her research and presentation at the National Press Club a couple weeks ago was talking about Gen Z and Bitcoin. And she showed that Gen Z knows almost nothing and cares almost nothing about Bitcoin. And what was surprising about the research, and it's something that's backed up by my experience teaching Bitcoin on campus, is that Gen Z doesn't care about environmental impact. Like we thought that would be the concern, that, oh, it ruins the environment. It couldn't care less. Not one of them, not one student that she interviewed, or sorry, of somebody of that age in the early 20s interviewed, mentioned that as a reason for not engaging Bitcoin, even though they knew about it when prompted. So I think that we have an opportunity to educate students, and there's a huge gap. We need a lot more of these programs like what we're running here, and a lot more labs like we're running, because with our little bit axes that I onboard, I don't know, 25 to 50 students every semester. I buy BitXs myself. I mean, I buy them. Solo Satoshi gives me an education discount very generously, and I just buy with my own Bitcoin a bunch of them every semester and give them to students who are interested, and those who finish classes, who finish workshop series. And they learn how to mine. And then next semester they come and they're like, yeah, I've been mining all winter, but now I want to do more. How do I do more? And I want to get more hash rate, and I want to build a shit axe, and I want to do this. And that's how you do it. And I'm only one professor, but imagine if we're doing that on every campus, let alone if every campus is hash rate heating. Then the campus can save taxpayer money by not contracting out to Google and others. They can create they have their own decentralized yet local cloud server and operating systems on top of that. And it's a complete transformation of how a university works, how education works, which is long, long overdue. And again, Bitcoin fulfilling its mission of revolution and freedom tech.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So yeah, I think it's really cool that you're kind of spreading that ability for folks to kind of do that on their own and learn about it as well. And I think you might have mentioned a little bit about it, but in terms of the devices that you have there, are they like they might get a block like every 10, 15 years? Like what's their likelihood of actually being able to do get a block?
No, they'll never get a blog. I mean, maybe, who knows, but it's very unlikely. But it's more of it's a learning exercise. It's a tool to onboard them. That's what a BitX is for. It's just show you what it really means to mine, give you a sense, and to say, hey, look, you're preserving, important for some of my classes, that you're preserving Jewish history right now just by running your miner and your
Hmm.
node on your computer. And you may win some Bitcoin because Bitcoin is just a lottery. And you may win it, you may not, you probably won't, but at least you're helping to secure the network. You're decentralizing it. And one of the workshops we do this semester is we turn the bit axes into hydro miners, led by our engineering student lead, Adi, who was also a BPI fellow. Yeah, so then they learn how to just distribute heat, which a lot of students in the humanities and finance don't know how to do. And then the engineering students teach them, and then they teach engineering students about other parts of how we capture music with air cooling and so on, or Bitcoin sounds, and then create music with that. So yeah, they these little bit axes are really, really educational. I mean, just ripping off the fans and showing how to actually turn a toilet seat into a nicely warm toilet seat with your bit axe. And then they go home to their parents and they say, "Why are we not getting paid to shower? Why are we not getting heat the house? Like, why are we paying to heat the house? It doesn't make any sense." And you're right, it doesn't make sense. Like, you live in a unique time, and one of the only times that I know of that you can, just as everyday people, legally mint your own currency. It's insane. Like, this is a unique moment because mining will be banned. I have no doubt. I don't know how long it will take, but the US will ban mining. That's only a matter of time. So, because it's crazy, you can mint your own money at home. Once it becomes a currency that's recognized by the federal government, you will no longer be able to mine your own Bitcoin at home. So, mine it now while you can, and have enough of it to maybe leave if you need to.
What do I feel like you guys are basically doing like a Bitcoin policy institute, creating like the Bitcoin studies program, but it feels like you're building a Bitcoin MacGyvers, basically. You know,
Eh,
that's what it is. You're
I mean,
basically being like, it seems like what you're actually encouraging with the bit axis is not only are you making them curious into like learning the idea of like how to secure the network, but it seems like you guys are also doing a lot of DIY engineering and crafting that would allow to be like, hey, this thing's produce heat. Now you have this thermal management stuff. And guess
uh,
what? You need warm water in your house. You need a warm toilet seat. You may need warm central heating. It
yep.
seems like you're building the next Bitcoin Dyson there, where they're basically taking these miners and integrating it to anything that we use for heat. Right?
Yeah,
I hope
absolutely.
you're basically building like a design lab with the heat being the primarily integration use source for all these normal products, it
Absolutely.
seems like.
It's absolutely a design lab, and we designed our student Adi designed a new miner uh, over the summer, which he's already raised for, which is incredible. And a prototype is going to be coming out. It's like, and so it's a hydro cooled kind of GPU miner. I mean, it's ASIC, but it looks like a GPU card. And anywhere that you have a GPU card, you can just take it out and we plop this in with hydro cooling and have 14 terahash running for the same amount of power, if not less, that you were using for a GPU. So, and then you can use that warm water for something. You can't boil anything yet, but you can have lukewarm tea or something. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, growing plants with immersion mining. We've got an immersion box coming. It's not set up yet, which will be growing cherry tomatoes inside of a little greenhouse. We wanted to grow weed because it's totally legal. We could grow marijuana on campus if we want, but I thought it would raise too much attention that I didn't want.
You mean too many distractions would be basically the productivity levels of the entire class would just be like they just coast after the first semester, huh?
Yeah,
That's your real
well,
concern.
it would get me closer to my real dream, which is my company of smokable books, where you just create books with smokable hemp paper and you make the ink out of the seeds. It's, you read a chapter, smoke a chapter, and the book gets better as you read it. And then you're so damn high at the end, you forgot the book. So you're going to buy a new one because you forgot it. And why not? Because you can smoke it. So to me, it's like the best business model since like Christianity. It's just, promise you a product, you pay for it, like pre-order. When you die, you'll get it. Don't worry. Pre-order until you're dead. I mean, no one can beat that business model, but this is a good one too, I think. So yeah.
Gotta say, I've known Mike for a long time. That idea he told me very early, and I think that really has legs. Not for the people who continuously use their product. Of course, they're just too stoned to move. But like the reality is, like I think it's so funny that it could actually work. So
Because
yeah,
it's environmentally friendly too, right? I mean, it's hemp is much more renewable and much less of a burden on the environment. So yeah,
well, I'm looking forward to the day that you have that first book. When you do that, I'd like to get a first edition for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's gonna have to be the Bible. So I mean, what else could it be?
I feel like here's the thing with Mike. Like he gets me 90% of the way there, and that last 10%, I get the blue balls, and I'm like, fuck. Because like you had me until that point. Because my wife would
No,
literally
yes,
kick me out of the
Bible.
house.
Because the Bible has within it in Genesis, the Bible actually says, go and make smokable books, right? I mean, that's what it says in Genesis, right? It says, God has given you all the herbs and seeds and plants to use, right? So it's like both telling you to read and to learn the word of God and to go use the herbs out there. So the message clearly is make smokable books and then Jesus will come.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and use that, but like just in case I end up homeless, just remember I'll move up to fucking to New York, and I'm gonna be crashing at your place, and I'll be like, "This, you see this? You see this reduction in my lifestyle? This is all a result of you."
I've got like 50 boxes of smokable books. We'll be good.
Oh my God. That's awesome. So speaking of books, I do want to get into how you came about your name as the Bitstorian. So I know you're a very avid, like books are very important. So let's talk about how that title came about and then kind of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a historian. That's it's mainly it's that I'm a historian working on Bitcoin, and it's, I try to write. I teach the students how to write history with Bitcoin and Doge. We use as well sometimes, and Doge has a lot of the same promises for heating your home and everything else. That's really the gist of it. Is I'm a historian on Bitcoin, and yes, I'm a very active historian. I had a Fulbright a couple of years ago. Now I'm finishing up a book that comes from that. I'm looking at comparing Catholic and Jewish theologies and the origin of the concept of human nature, and how that led to an early medieval anti-Semitism. So it's very dangerous, this concept of human nature. It really is, because once you define human nature, there's going to be people who are exceptions to that, and that's what the Catholic Church said was Jews are kind of like human, but not fully, and they called them inhuman. That's the Latin word, inhumanum. So we might say subhuman. So that category is very dangerous. And yeah, I show that. So, but I'm an active historian, still writing a lot about late antiquity, early Middle Ages, a lot of historical theory. I proposed a new historical theory in a edited volume recently by Bloomsbury. Idea of anti-history, that all history starts with anti-history. I don't think it's that radical of an idea. It's just no one's actually just sat down and said it. Uh, yeah, that's it. And I teach history, and history is the most important thing in the world. There's nothing more
Yeah.
important. I was just talking about that earlier in my class on Jewish history, that maybe the world would be better without history, honestly, because why I think it relates so much to Bitcoin, because whether you're using your phone, I talked about a little earlier, or you're using a Bitcoin miner, or you're praying to God, you're connecting the abstract to the real. That's what the historical method does. It's a scientific method, like religion is a deployment of the historical method is a field-specific deployment of the scientific method, just like religion is, or anything else is. It's a deployment of the scientific method to create truths. So the historical method is creating truths that are considered historical truths, but it builds that off past, which is not real. Past is just an abstraction. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It never will be, never was real. And so it's just a method for bringing something abstract into reality, like religion does with God, or Bitcoin miners do with electricity. They bring something abstract into reality, into something firm. So the historical method is history is how we create identities. All identity is an attachment to a historical narrative. And every religion past is a central abstraction for every major religion. Without it, a lot of that collapses, if not the entire thing. So history is the foundation of the human sciences. And I think that Bitcoin fits right in there with a foundation as a foundational tool in the human sciences and a new facticity protocol added to the sciences. And like history has its facticity protocol for determining from looking at evidence and turning parts of that evidence into facts and then narrating those facts into truths. Bitcoin does that uh, through its mining system, through its proof of work consensus mechanism. And it does that in a rhizomatic way. That's information comes from all over the place, not arborescent as in one central place or centralized. So, but it's the same process. And so I think writing history with Bitcoin, however you imagine it, is using the same scientific method, but using that facticity process of Bitcoin. So it's merging them. So it gives value to Bitcoin and history. So yeah.
I gotta ask a question of like, how do students find your program who want to be at this crossroads of like understanding engineering, history, religion, and the technology of specifically proof of work systems? How do you expect to get the next set of young minds to be like, yo, I'm going to apply to Binghamton specifically because they have this confluence of data and knowledge?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the best ways is that we had 100% placement into internships and jobs last summer. Doesn't get much better than that because the reason students come to college is to get a job. But I hope that the reason they come to study Bitcoin is to be entrepreneurs. And in a primary lesson I try to teach them is don't let other people profit off your work. And that starts with writing your papers on a decentralized system, whether it's Doge or Bitcoin or other proof of work system, and not giving it to Turnitin, which is a software system that then sells their data, makes money off their data, and they make nothing off of their own work. So even if they're never going to make money off a college essay, at least don't let others make money off of it. Hold it and possess it and self-custody your own intellectual property.
Or why do I just feel like you're just basically created a defendable kind of case for students to be like, I can't do my homework and I refuse to take this exam because you could possibly turn around and use it to create more extensible goods of your next exam. So
Yeah,
by me basically withholding for this, I'm actually aligning with the clear principles of this course. So give me an A and let me go on and then do the next thing. Has anyone
they
taken
should.
that position yet?
No, because I allow them, and it's in all of my syllabi. I allow them to write, there's to submit their papers as inscriptions on Doge or Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
So, and I don't know how many other professors do that in the US, but I know I do it. And I would encourage them to ask all their professors to do that.
That's
And
pretty fucking cool. I did not know that.
yeah, and to say, okay, I'm not going to send you my paper to your Doge or Bitcoin wallet, but I will show it to you on this UI, sorry, that demonstrates, that shows, where you can read it. So, and then I hope that, in that process, they learn how to, like, a lot of times the students ask, well, when we create these inscriptions, where does all that go? Like, okay, we wrote all this history. How do I find it? How do I get it? And I said, yeah, there are no archives, there are no libraries on Bitcoin or Doge, but they all need to be built. So then they're like, how do we build it? Maybe I can build it. And like, I know a guy at Chabad who was going to fund this and they want to do this. And so it really encourages them. And then because the classes are so interdisciplinary and cross campus, they meet. It's like a fertile ground for startups because they've got the kids in humanities, they've got the kids in finance, and they've got the kids in engineering. And they're all like, wow, we could do this, but I don't know technically how to do it. Then there's a kid in class who's like, yeah, I can do that. And I was like, yeah, but how do we get anyone to want it? Like, yeah, I'm in marketing. And so, yeah, I think that as they say, the proof is in the pudding. And as we graduate more students and as they're successful and as they become the faces of that generation, I mean, nearly half of the students in the Bitcoin Policy Institute were from Binghamton, and you all had a student from Binghamton. And other podcasts right now also have students from Binghamton, either as interns or employees in mining. So everyone starts to wonder, what the hell is Binghamton? I never heard of Binghamton, and I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of Bitcoiners there, and then it just grows. And so I think there's a lot of incentive in the students. They think it's a joke at first when I mention Bitcoin and doing all these things, but eventually, very quickly, the students pick it up very quick. Professors forget it, but the students get it pretty quickly. And it's very rarely do I find any that just reject it totally. Some just not interested for various reasons. I tell them all the time, as soon as you have your idea, leave. The point of coming here, it's like, for me, reading a book, like, I'm not at this point, as already someone with a PhD, is not to get all the historiography of a subject, usually, unless I'm writing a book about it, but to get inspired and get that idea and then to start writing. And once you get that idea, go build it. Stop thinking of this place as a mandatory 4 years, mandatory working for somebody else, and you're learning how to be sovereign and responsible individuals in the world, and that's what Bitcoin teaches. And I feel like they're just craving that. There's so much looking for that. Like, wow, I can just be what I want to be and say what I want to say, and I'm not being told to think in a certain way. And unfortunately, that happens a lot on campus. Yeah, I see a lot of excitement in the students, and that would be my sell, my pitch, why to come here. Really be yourself, and learn how to
Well,
prosper on your
I
own.
would tell you this, man. I bet you get a lot of "Oh Captain, my Captain" moments. In That's a real old throwback and a nerdy throwback for those who know. Yeah, no, man. Honestly, the way you just presented it, I think two things you told me that is like fucking crazy right now. One, you're a professor that allows for you to submit your homework assignments and your papers as inscriptions, and it's like you get extra points for that. That's fucking crazy. One. The second thing is I love that you just said you're like, school isn't mandatory. Our job is to provide you with enough knowledge and inspiration for you to go take the leap of faith that needs to occur. And like that's fucking beautiful, man. I just gotta make that point out for like everyone that's possibly listening. Like
Mhm.
that's profound. I've never really heard many professors actually say that out. Most of them are like, my job is to just give you the tools to have knowledge, right? Like that's it. Not
That's
give you
important
the
too.
inspiration to do it or
Uh,
just encourage you to be like, hey, now that I have the knowledge and I'm giving you the inspiration, go do it, you know? Kind of crazy.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, universities, not this one, of course, but universities can kind of look like, anyways, a simulacrum of money laundering schemes, right? Of taking taxpayer money and giving it to the companies, to all the third-party vendors to run stuff. And why do we start our semester in the middle of freaking August, right? The sooner you get them here, spending money in all the stores and restaurants and dorms and everything that are all, you get my point. So let's think of something. Let's get the students to think of something different. Let's get them to pay tuition off real world assets that are tokenized, and then they borrow against their Bitcoin, and they lock some of their Bitcoin in a either in a like a either in a multi sig with the university, and then the university can then I don't know, can then tokenize that and make money off of that, or the student can make money off of that. But it's kind of ridiculous that the students are giving over so much money to the university up front. So basically, for 4 years, the university is making money on your money. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Just promise, time lock it, right, in a UTXO, and then make money off of that time locked Bitcoin or Doge, and then that will unlock when you graduate, or put it into some DLC or some other contract that unlocks by some conditions, like or in a multi-sig or something, or find some innovative way to pay tuition so that isn't
Well,
exploiting students.
like as usual, we save the most profound moments at the end of the show. And like that's pretty fucking profound. It seems like dude, like it's a really nice to hear from educators, right? That are like shaping the next set of young minds who speak in such a passionate, like kind of like divergent thought way. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is like, dude, I gotta ask also, it's like, how does anyone find you and connect with you? Like, what's the best way for anyone who's out there in the ether to be like, yo, I want to go to fucking school over there and get taught from this guy? Or like, I just want to talk to this guy. How do they find?
Yeah, the easiest way is probably just find me on Twitter as at Bitstorian. But also, I'm very easy to find. Just Michael J. Kelly and Binghamton, and you'll find me 10 different sites. You'll find me on the university site, the Fulbright site, everywhere else that you'll see me. And of course, you'll also see me as a senior fellow at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. So if you go to the Bitcoin Policy Institute site, you'll find me. And I mentioned that as a last thing also because one of the research projects that I'm running for them, or as a fellow, as part of my research for them, is trying to create a comprehensive report next year on the state of Bitcoin on campuses in the US. So if anyone's willing to fill out a survey, if anyone has experienced campus life in any way in the past couple of years, definitely reach out to me and I can send you the survey and we can collect that data and then we can get your opinions anonymously into this comprehensive report on Bitcoin. But yeah. And also, if anyone has any thoughts on the other blog I'm putting together for them at the moment, is that all transactions on Bitcoin are currency transactions. If anyone has some thoughts on that, there's some hard views on that one. But yeah. So I'm pretty easy to find though.
That's awesome. And we'll definitely link that in the show notes as well so folks can access that. But Michael, this has been great, man. Really appreciate you spending the time. Learned a ton. And yeah, can't wait to kind of dig into some of the stuff that you've been working on a little bit more. So love it. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.